and welcome. I'm Lorelei of Nutritionale. I'm a graduate student currently studying to become a registered dietitian. Today I wanted to talk a bit about vitamin D. Vitamin D is an essential vitamin. All of our vitamins are essential. Vitamin D is a little bit different in that we don't necessarily have to get it in our diet to be able to get it in our bodies. Our bodies can actually make vitamin D if our skin is exposed to the sun. It's not like the sun contains vitamin D and it just beams down on us and we absorb it. No, we actually have a molecule in our skin which is similar to cholesterol. When the ultraviolet rays from the sun hit our skin, there's a bond in that molecule that's broken. With that broken bond, this molecule is now a precursor to vitamin D. This molecule can then travel through the bloodstream to the liver, where the liver will convert it to vitamin D and store it until it's needed. When the body needs vitamin D, it then travels from the liver to the kidneys, and the kidneys will convert that storage form of vitamin D to the active form of vitamin D. So what does vitamin D actually do? Vitamin D is responsible for calcium homeostasis in the body. We need to have a certain amount of calcium in our bloodstream in order for things like nerve conduction and muscle contraction to occur. So if we don't have enough calcium in our bloodstream, the vitamin D gets activated to do something about that problem. The first thing that vitamin D will do is, as a hormone, it will travel to the cells that line our intestinal tract and cause them to produce more receptors so that they are better able to absorb the calcium that gets into our bodies through our diet. Now, if we don't have enough calcium in our diet, our bodies can't absorb more calcium no matter how much vitamin D we have. So you do have to take in calcium in order for vitamin D to do its job. The second thing vitamin D will do is it will help the kidneys retain calcium. When our blood is filtered through the kidneys, if we have an excess of minerals and other products, those will just get excreted out of the body. However, the activated form of vitamin D can cause the kidneys to retain more calcium so that it stays in our bloodstream and we don't excrete it. The third way that vitamin D can help the blood to get enough calcium into it is actually by breaking down bone. Generally, this is only going to happen if we don't have enough calcium in our diet. Vitamin D is rarely responsible for loss of bone density. In fact, vitamin D is essential to create bone density because it helps absorb calcium into the body. But like I said, you gotta have calcium in your diet or that's not gonna work. A lack of vitamin D is actually known to cause things like rickets in children, which causes bone deformities, or osteomalacia or bone pain or loss of bone density in adults. Again, vitamin D helps our bodies to absorb calcium so that then it can be deposited into our bone. Only if our diets are deficient in calcium will vitamin D cause bone to break down so that we have enough calcium in our bloodstream to survive. So how much vitamin D do we need a day? The recommended dietary allowance is 15 micrograms per day. If you let your arms be exposed to the sun for about 15 minutes per day, your body's going to make about 25 micrograms of vitamin D. So that's enough. Although we can get vitamin D from letting our skin be exposed to the sun, that's not always possible for everyone every day. If we don't get vitamin D that way, we need to get it in our diets. Not a lot of foods contain vitamin D. Meats do. Sometimes dairy products are fortified with vitamin D. And we can also maybe get some vitamin D from mushrooms that have been exposed to ultraviolet radiation. Mushrooms are irradiated to keep them from spoiling. However, it also causes the mushrooms to produce a form of vitamin D that we, if we eat the mushrooms, can then absorb into our bodies. The vitamin D that you get from mushrooms is vitamin D2. The vitamin D that we would develop from the sun is vitamin D3. They're not exactly the same, and not as many studies have been done on vitamin D2, but they perform similar functions. So getting vitamin D through mushrooms is definitely an option. You may not know whether or not you're getting enough vitamin D either from the sunlight or from the food in your diet. You can actually get a blood test done to see what your vitamin D levels are at. If they're low, you might want to consider supplementing. Vitamin D is one of those vitamins that people do tend to be deficient. I don't recommend supplementing every vitamin. Most things we can get through our food, but vitamin D may be an exception. And if you don't have enough vitamin D in your diet, it actually can cause problems with your bones. 15 micrograms is your number. 15 micrograms is about 600 international units. Just because some is good doesn't mean more is better. Never go above the recommended requirement for any vitamin. The tolerable upper limit for vitamin D is 100 micrograms, and vitamin D taken above that level can be quite toxic. First of all, because it's a fat-soluble vitamin, the body will store it. Toxic effects of vitamin D include calcification of organs. That's not something that you want to have happen. Although excessive sun exposure can be bad for your skin, you're actually not going to create more vitamin D in the body than the body needs. So you don't have to worry about vitamin D toxicity from sun exposure. If you have any questions about vitamin D, please put them in the comments below so I can try to answer them to the best of my ability. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend, and as always, I'd love to have you subscribe to my channel. Once again, I'm Nutritionelle, and I encourage you to eat